If your latest performance review has ever crushed you more than it actually should have, if you've ever walked out of a meeting completely questioning your value as a professional, then this episode is for you. Before we dive in, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button to never miss an episode of the Corporate Warriors podcast. Today, we're gonna talk about one of the most traumatizing and deeply rooted traps that high performers are actually running into, and it's this. It's tying your self-worth to your current job performance, and why this must stop for you in order to thrive in your career in the long run, especially if you're working in a toxic or dysfunctional work environment right now. Hi, my name is Fela Rosa, your host and career coach and founder of Corporate Warriors, where we really do careers, career healing, and career success in a very conscious kind of way. And today's podcast episode is about one revelation that you need to have in order to thrive in your career in the long term, and that literally will change everything for you. It's that your self-worth is untouchable, but only if you stop actually handing that part over to your workplace. And we're gonna dive into that a little bit more today. Now, first, let's start with understanding what's actually going on in the back end, because you need to understand that this is one of the main traps why high performers stay in dysfunctional careers and do not stand up for themselves when it's time to, do not set boundaries, and therefore sometimes might even run into burnout. My personal worst case scenario for every high performer out there, because it's really easy once you understand it. So let's zoom out a little bit. If your self-worth is completely attached to your job, what's happening is this. If your performance review was not as good as you wanted it to be, you'll take it hyper-personal and think that you are not worthy. Now, this will lead to you working harder, not necessarily smarter. At this point, if your boss ignores you, you might work really hard to feel seen. If your environment kind of is so fast paced that it's actually rather chaotic, you might try to be the person solving everything, fixing everything. So your strategy continues to be, I need to deliver more to finally be able to prove my worth to somebody else, because your evaluation, your definition of worthiness is defined by somebody on the outside. Especially in toxic workplaces, this is so easy to be used against you, because if you're a high performer, you can easily be brought into a position where you run in circles. And what's happening once you run in circles is not you delivering better results, because at some point you're at capacity. This means that you cannot deliver even more at the same amazing quality. So if you start running in circles, you say, oh, perhaps I can do even more, even more, even more. And over time, the quality of what you actually deliver will fall and will go down. So the next time you have a performance review, your boss will actually have true proof that your performance got down. So you need to be crystal clear and understand on a strategic level what is going on, and understand that the root cause of all of this was that you placed and you attached your self-worth to your performance review, for instance. Because really, what's behind you attaching your self-worth to somebody else's evaluation? Very likely, it might be that you yourself are not feeling worthy, so you try to get the approval that you actually are worthy from the outside, because you yourself cannot feel it right now. Now, when you search this on the outside and you get a performance review that is perhaps worse than what you're used to, you do not question the system, you question yourself, because it really feeds into that old wound that you might not be worthy. So it feeds that deeply rooted fear inside of you, which is why you actually believe it. Because you already felt that way before, and now somebody's actually telling you what you're feeling, so it hurts double. So you start to think, perhaps I'm really not that good, perhaps I'm really not that smart, perhaps I should have worked harder, I am actually so lazy because I should have gotten up at 6 a.m. and reworked this, I am, so lazy because I should have stayed up longer yesterday night and just pushed through a little bit more. And you question yourself versus questioning the system that is apparently unable to use a high performer in a long-term productive kind of way. This is literally what leadership is all about. So you should question more the leadership style of your boss than yourself. But again, as the trauma, the original one, is rooted deeply inside you, this is really hard to understand from a deeper perspective. And interestingly, those two kind of patterns attract each other. Somebody that does not feel worthy will kind of attract a boss that feeds off of that. It's what I see very often in my coachings. So if you're not 100% sure yet if that is you, then let's dive into the second stage, which is like understanding the red flags, if that is you. So you can really double check with yourself. Is this me? Am I perhaps attaching my self-worth to an external validation right now? Red flag number one would be, if you're really true to yourself, you never feel enough. Even perhaps if you get a good performance review, you think you might have been able to do better. So you like over deliver, over function, over give. It's always you raising the hand, you helping out teammates, you trying to fix things. Second red flag is if you constantly second guess yourself. Now, critical reflection on yourself is good and necessary for long-term success. Do not get me wrong. But if you constantly second guess all of your actions during the day, you say one sentence that could have been interpreted in a certain way, and this is what you think about going to sleep at night, then very likely this could be seen as a red flag of you not having the self-worth that you actually are supposed to have. That is innate. That is your birthright. In a toxic workplace situation, that might be used against you very easily. So if this is you and you constantly second guess yourself, this might lead to you trying to never make a mistake. And obviously that is not possible. It's just not human. You're a human. Even if you're a high-performing individual, you're still human and you will make mistakes. And the way you deal with mistakes is not by beating yourself up for it, but by coming clean. And then drop it, let it go. It's over. That mistake happened. You came clean. Perhaps you were able to fix something. Perhaps you were able to find a solution. And then you just move on. Literally like nothing happened, because that's just part of your career, part of life. And you should be able to deal with that in a logical and emotionally balanced kind of way. Symptoms, if your self-worth is too attached to your outer performance evaluation, is that you continuously take on more and more without setting any boundaries. And this will just lead you into this negative spiral, because taking on more and more, in addition to trying to be perfect all the time, will just create worse results over time, because again, this is not human. You have a kind of limited capacity. Your capacity might be here way over the capacity of, let's say, a normal functioning employee, but at some point you will be at max capacity. And if you try to push through for too long, for months or even years, your quality will drop. It's just human, it's natural. It is not a proof that you're not worthy. And here it's definitely the case that if you are doing that in a toxic workplace, the probability is very high that they will do that continuously, because some people can go on the I prove myself kind of track for months or years. And toxic workplaces, what they do is they do not care about the humans in it. They will hope that if one high performer drops out, the next high performer that is trying to overly prove their worth is coming next. So they do not really care about you. However, I hope that you care about you. It's your job to care about you. And you need to tackle this issue at its root cause, feeling worthy. And you can tackle it from both sides. And this is where we are at the third stage, at the shift. You can tackle it from the inside and from the outside together, however you want to put that. So let this truth really sink into your soul. Your self-worth never depended on anything external. Everybody's just similarly worthy, which is why your performance review does not define your potential. Now, I want to be clear that if you have a negative performance review, yes, reflect on it. Take a good look. Perhaps there's truth to it. Perhaps not. But take a look, reflect on it, but don't think you're unworthy just because once your performance review wasn't good enough. And if you have a toxic boss that is acting up or acting weirdly, dysfunctionally, don't blame yourself for that. This is where the internal wounds will show on the outside, also in your careers. If this is you, that might be a pattern that you've had for a long time, that even sometimes children take on the burden if their parents are not nice to them. They think it's because of them, because they're not worthy. Perhaps this is the same root cause for you. If it is, then there are ways to heal that. So you really need to tackle this from the inside out and the outside in. It's a combination of healing those old wounds that made you conclude that you're not worthy. And we need to take a look where they come from and heal them where they started to exist, while on the outside starting to put up more boundaries and protection mechanisms for yourself to protect yourself from actually thinking that and believing into that narrative. And together, once we have both the inside and the outside, you will feel stronger. You'll know your worth. And it does not mean, again, I don't want to raise narcissists here, because some people provide more value, some people provide less value. Ideally, that's how the hierarchy is set up in a company, and that is why people are paid different wages. So I don't want to say everybody has the same worth, so we should all basically live in communism. No, but even if you're a junior employee, you are worthy. If you're a senior employee, you are worthy. If you're cleaning personnel, you are worthy. And your innate worth does not depend on a performance review. Now, yes, take a look at the comments, take a look at the feedback, and use it to improve, but don't use it to beat yourself up and believe into this old, wrong narrative that your self-worth is dependent on someone else. So if this is something that you finally want to work on, if you want to remain an amazing high performer and or leader that is stable, unshakable, that knows what they stand up for, why they do the work they do, how they have a positive impact on the company and on the people around them, but you're done searching for validation on the outside, then comment, start, and I'll gladly send you a short video explaining how I work with people like you to heal on the inside while establishing the strategies on the outside to be successful in the long run. If this episode hit home, again, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share the episode with somebody that is in a similar situation. If you're a leader, think about your team. Is there somebody that might benefit from listening to this? And share it. The sooner that you tackle this, the easier it's gonna be, and the more joy you'll be able to find in your career again as well. I don't want anybody else running into burnout. We're done. Let's learn from the mistakes of others and our own mistakes and come back so much stronger in the long run. I'm rooting for you. Have a wonderful rest of your week. See you next time.